You just finished the second phase, or P3, and you went into this a little nervous, just because, everybody does, especially because we are not weighing. I didn't want you to weigh. I haven't seen you in 3 weeks. And you were not to weigh yourself. You were to trust your hunger. That was the rhythm of how to eat. You should have been adding fats liberally. Cream, butter, nuts, nut butters, avocados, oil, olive oil, you name it. It needed to be higher in fat. And to use hunger as a guide. So not only are you using hunger as a guide, but you're learning foods that you haven't had yet.
Right.
So there's a lot of vulnerability.
There was. And it was really scary to add those things in, and they were really good.
The flavors of everything.
Uh-huh.
How was it to just accept the fat gain? Because ultimately, remember what I said to you before you left with that last meeting? I said you have to assume you're going to gain all of this fat back so that you're willing to just try this.
Right.
Because if you're going to change how you eat in fear of fat gain, you're not going to do it because it's too scary.
Yeah. It is scary. It is scary, but what I tried to focus on was how great I felt. I felt really good, and I felt in control, which before coming to you, I didn't feel in control at all.
Which is why you sought out controls from out there.
Exactly.
The diet had to tell you what to do. And
Exactly.
now it's like the control's coming from this internal gauge.
That's right.
Do you feel like you did a good job?
Yeah.
And overall, you were accurate.
There were a couple times when I didn't do a great job, but I recognized those almost immediately. And so that was kind of good lessons for me on, eating too fast, on, just not really thinking through what I was doing beforehand. And it was apparent to me right away that I hadn't done a good job. But, 98% of the time I feel like, yeah, I did a good job. I used the hunger scale.
You learned a lot. Because
did.
you really do have to learn without the HCG what your true hunger rhythms are. And at this point, you should feel like your hunger rhythms, granted you do have a menstrual cycle that does shift it, but in general, you should feel like you're kind of at normal again.
Yeah.
Meaning you're not under the influence of HCG and you're eating more than 500 calories.
Yeah. Absolutely.
And who cares? Have you noticed how nice it is not to have to micromanage food?
It's great.
You still have that freedom that we talked about.
Yeah.
Not worrying about it, letting the body do its job and trusting that whatever you do in the decisions of what you're eating, that the body will tell you when to stop eating whatever it is.
Exactly. Yep. Yeah.
So do you want to get your measurements?
Sure.
Okay, so last time I saw you, which was October 24th, and it's November 14th. So it's been 3 weeks. You were 187. Tell me, what do you think it's going to be?
190.
Okay, let's do it.
Okay.
It's already ready for you.
Oh, it is? Okay.
Nope, no, it's going to zero out again.
Okay. Sorry.
It's okay. It is 183, so you've lost another 4 pounds. I could tell just because I could see it, but are you shocked?
Yeah, a little bit. Because
Can you
I
say,
ate more.
Can you say hallelujah?
Yeah, absolutely.
Hallelujah. It works, doesn't it?
It does. It works. And, I felt great.
Yeah.
I really am surprised. Because I ate more. I ate more flavorful stuff, stuff that I really wanted. But...
Have you had bacon yet?
Oh, yeah.
Okay, I always have to ask that.
Yeah, I have. And it was
Bacon.
Delicious. Yeah.
It is, and don't you kind of feel, were you nervous? Because, in the past, especially if you dieted in the 80s and 90s, bacon was bad.
Absolutely.
And if you can get it without nitrates, it's not that bad. So now you've had it. I mean, saturated fat.
Yeah. And it was good. And
can you tell how hormonally stable it is?
Me too.
Yes. The palate.
Yeah.
So you're not constantly driven to get more and more and more of it because you actually get a thing that says, ooh, you've had enough. This is enough. There's some satisfaction that comes along with those fats.
And I took an avocado, mashed it up, put some onion and tomato and salt and lemon juice in it, and just ate it with a fork, and it was so good
and rewarding. So you're really enjoying the food, and you should not feel deprived at all. Now, are you excited to go with the starches?
I'm a little nervous about starches.
Well, you should be, because they're hormonally more powerful. So even though you've continued to lose, of which I do need to talk about that, because Dr. Simeons talks about, making sure that you stabilize your weight. And based on this, you're still continuing to lose. I mean, you've lost 4 pounds on the scale. That doesn't mean it's 4 pounds of fat. Granted, usually what we see is fat loss and lean body mass gain, not because you're gaining muscle, but because the amount of weight in food in your digestive system is getting bigger. I mean, compare what you ate on protocol to what you're eating now.
And I can tell a difference.
It weighs more. So you should feel, and I actually warned you that your stomach is going to feel like there's food in it now. So that empty feeling, I'm sorry, it's bye-bye now.
Yeah.
Anyway, so you should be gaining 2 to 3 pounds of just body weight. And what I normally see is a continued loss in body fat. So the scale can stabilize and your body can reshape. Now, not only are you probably increasing that body, but you've dropped another 4 pounds. So I wouldn't be surprised, to be honest with you, that when we do a body fat composition that you've actually lost 5 to 6 pounds of fat in 3 weeks. Listening to hunger, and calorically, if you actually counted, where do you think it would end up? 1,200, 1,500.
Yeah,
but it took, how long did it take to get to that amount?
It did.
It took probably a good 2 weeks.
Yeah, and I was going to say like between a week and 2. I would say for me to get up there.
Yeah, and based on the kind of the modern science and the hypothesis I created, I truly believe that if Dr. Simeons actually was aware of what we know today hormonally, he wouldn't be using weight as a guide. He would be using hormones, because hormonal stability is what we're looking for. And that's why I focus so intensely on hunger as a gauge, and why I don't, when people feel hungry on the very low calorie protocol, a common thing that they do is they adjust dosing. I refuse to do it because that doesn't help someone go into the next phases with confidence with hunger. So instead of adjusting dosing, I suggest adjusting to your hunger rhythms so that when you transition, you can continue to actually adjust and going forward. So it's actually giving you a lot of power and control, like you said, and confidence that no one should be able to tell you when and how much to eat. Do you see how flawed that concept is now? Like,
I do.
How can I listen to you?
Right. And I mean, there were times when I'd get some cottage cheese,
Yep. Full fat.
4%. Oh, yeah, full fat. And I'd put a little scoop, on my plate, and it would be a little scoop, and I'd eat half of it, and I'd be like, I think I'm done. Yeah. And before, on
whatever program
a diet,
it was.
Yeah, I would be like, oh, well, I've got to eat all of that,
Yeah, because that's your serving
right,
size.
that's my serving. But but I was really confident in that this time. Yeah.
So even though your body weight or your body fat is still going down, the idea is that your hormones are more balanced and stable than they were on the very low calorie protocol. And what you'll find is that even if you continue to lose, you still feel really good.
Yeah.
Except for you're not as cold.
Yeah, that's true. Absolutely.
Without the HCG.
Yep.
So the concept stays is the same now that we're going to be adding starches. Do not start with sugar. Don't go there first. You need to start with the complex carbohydrates. And let's talk real food. So let's use more variety in your vegetables. Can you do potatoes? Start with that first. Can you do, quinoa, barley, like the whole grain where it takes a while to cook, not the quick. Learn how that affects your hunger rhythms, but make sure when you eat a starch that it is combined with fat and protein. That combination slows down the hormonal reaction to it because it takes longer to digest. Does that make sense?
It does.
If you eat something that's very quickly digested, your hormonal response is going to be very quick. And you'll overdo it.
Would like
without
a banana
the signal.
be an example of that?
The banana, you need to add a lot of fat to that banana.
Right.
Peanut butter.
Exactly.
Almond butter. You know what I mean? So, and you may not eat the whole banana. Be always aware of what the body is saying. So even if you cut the banana in half, your body may say, hey, you only need a half of a banana. And you have to be okay with that. Remember, because it's always a blind gauge of when to stop. Have I described that to you before? It's every time you go to eat, you need to put a blindfold on your mind. You are to stop, regardless of how much you're fed. You are to stop when hunger is gone. And if you can learn to do that, being fed the biggest meal ever, wherever you go across the world, you're done. You're independent. That's the control I'm talking about. It's such an independent gauge.
Right.
And really, you're not in control. Your body is.
Right.
But there is, you see the confidence that comes along with this is like, holy crap.
Exactly.
I never needed any form of outside control. There's intelligence in the food that we're eating. You want to know, you want to put as much nutrition in your system as possible and vary it up. And, you know, I would say if we were to look at your overall diet, meaning your overall food intake, lots of vegetables, more fat, animal, you know, you need a lot of fish. You need to eat, you know, just think of real food. The way I use it is by saying you need to be on the life cycle. By eating food that is processed, you're not on the life cycle. You're literally in a money cycle.
Yeah.
And you're taking in all sorts of byproducts. So if you can get to real food, it tastes better. Have you noticed that as well?
Oh, yeah.
Like real butter is really good.
Exactly. Yeah, I bought some real butter because we didn't have any in the house because we'd used like light margarine. You know?
Where there's no sustenance.
Exactly. And my husband saw it in the refrigerator and he was like, "This is butter with olive oil?" And I'm like, "Yeah." And he's like, "Oh, I'd like to try that." And so, you know, he's getting on board too.
Awesome. So start thinking of what you want to start with. And when the time comes that you can add a sweet or sugar, be careful because it's really powerful. You are not a big person. You still, I would say, have another 50 pounds of fat on your body. So you're still very... Okay, we were talking about sugar. And at this point, you know, with where you're at physically, you still have 50 pounds. And we were talking about moving forward through the holidays that you are going to have to, again, navigate in the most gluttonous time of the year where it's justified for you. Your past has justified it for you. You have nostalgia. You have holiday tradition. There's a lot of food. Think about Christmas without food. What would it be like? We would have a lot more presents to compensate. More trees. Let's put 5 trees in the house instead of 1. You know what I mean?
Yep.
But you are going to have the opportunity because you're no longer on protocol to enjoy some of those highly palatable, hormonally powerful narcotic foods, sugar. And one of the challenges going to be for you is to be able to get that narcotic response, where the brain, the dopamine side of the brain says, "Oh yeah, this food," and you're going to have that palate in the narcotic response. And the test is, are you capable of making the foundation of choice to stop eating hunger rhythms? Can you do it even though you get this positive reaction that doesn't go away when hunger goes away? It continues to exist. In fact, it gets bigger. And you had said that you honestly believe that might have been a big issue for you in the past.
Oh, yeah.
Explain.
Yeah. I mean, looking back at the issues I've had with food, you know, in the past, I can absolutely see that sugar was just this trigger for me, you know.
Do you feel it was because you were judging it, like it was bad and you'd ruined everything? Because remember, a lot of what you did was, well, I've screwed it up anyways.
Oh, yeah.
So I might as well eat everything
Yeah,
in the
absolutely.
house.
Yeah. I mean, you know, or, you know, so I've had this, I shouldn't have,
But did you justify it with, I've earned it?
Oh, yeah. I've earned it, yeah. Or... I just need it. I just want it. You know, I really, really
I've been deprived and I'm going to do it. And I'll fix it tomorrow.
Exactly.
There's always
But the rest of today, it's already screwed up, so I might as well just have whatever I want, however much I want. And then tomorrow I'll do better.
Because I'm going to be restricting tomorrow.
Exactly.
Plus, if there's anything left over, I'm going to have to eat it all.
Because I can't have it
tomorrow. Because I don't want it around because I'm vulnerable around it.
Right.
Now, I'm really excited for you to actually have some sugar for that reason. To see what happens. We need to know what happens for you. To know whether this is something that you're going to have to really be aware of.
Yeah, and you know, I'm really nervous about having some sugar. And
Do you feel that is because you still feel vulnerable to saying screw it?
I think it...
Because that nervousness, do you feel, is based on past experience?
Yeah, I think so. I think
so you kind of get a do-over now.
Yeah.
You're going to start over.
Yeah. But because it was always such an issue for me in the past...
Yeah.
And I haven't tested myself now. It's just a big test.
It is a big test. That's why I'm kind of excited.
Yeah. And I think I can pass it. I think I can do well.
If you get through the holidays, being that you have business meet parties, family parties, friend parties, neighborhood parties, gift exchange, food exchange, cookie exchange, alcohol, partying. Keep on going, however you want it. If you make it through the next, couple of months, and you come out of this better aware of your body, how it works with sugar, how it works with starch, how it works in that environment and under the influence of alcohol, under all of this, and you come in here in January and physically you're the same, and emotionally you did what the challenge has been,
better,
which is
right? Yeah.
You maintain this base while you are all over the board here. What does that provide you?
Freedom.
Complete
and
100%.
Confidence. That I got it. I understand.
So if you can make it through this, a birthday party will feel like nothing.
It's like the ultimate challenge, right?
Totally. Like going forward, what's a challenge? If you can make it through the American holiday season,
how sad
Thanksgiving,
is that?
Christmas, Hanukkah, all of it in the middle.
Yep. Yeah.
It's worth taking the risk just
it
to be
is
able
worth
to do
taking
it,
the risk
to develop that sense of where you're at.
Because I'm more than how much I weigh.
I'm a lot more. Absolutely. Now you get it too, don't you? It's like
that's not even
physically you feel better.
Yeah.
Physically, there's some wonderful benefits, but man, ultimately, you're the same person.
Yeah,
nothing's changed.
Exactly, and knowing myself and being able to understand how to be in control, and within myself as opposed to all the control outside that I tried to create.
That was
before.
Constantly created guilt and binging.
Exactly. That's more important than anything else. Yeah.
Hallelujah. Good for you.